again, audience.
No.
Welcome back to our Mass Effect series, and for this video, we're going to be talking about a villain from the video game.
Yes. Well, Aria doesn't like villains, apparently.
No, she's running for it.
She is.
Oh, and I almost forgot Grunt.
How dare you?
I'm sorry, baby. So, for the villain, we decided to go with the villain from the first game of the series. So we will be talking about Saren Arterius.
He was a Turian Spectre.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start with the background as per usual. So if you want to take it from here.
Sure. So Saren, like most Turians, started his military training at the age of 15. And he also took part in the First Contact War, which was between the humans and the Turians.
Yeah, that's a big focal point of tension between Turians and humans, because so there was this law about not tampering with mass tech technology.
Mm-hmm.
Humans, though, obviously, they didn't know that was a thing.
Yes.
So the Turians, instead of investigating as thoroughly as they probably should have, decided to shoot first and ask questions later.
Mm-hmm.
So that brought about a huge war, and the other council races eventually had to step in to stop it. Because humanity, they started attacking other races because the only contact with aliens they had was violent and negative, so like, better safe than sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So that got the council races to step in. It ended the war, but by then there was already bad blood.
And
So some Turians and humans don't really care, especially since it's been like, what, 30 years?
like
By the
30.
time of the game?
Yeah, 30 years.
So a lot of, humans and Turians alike, because they have similar lifespans,
Mm-hmm.
weren't even born or were very young when it happened. So it's like, yeah, it happened, but it doesn't really affect me. And others are like, you gotta go by individuals, not a species at large, or, even some Turians who fought in the war have respect for humans because humans held out freakishly well.
Saren is not one of those Turians.
No.
Saren hates humans.
And that mostly stems from the fact that the character who you meet in the second game, and this is a spoiler, so skip ahead a few seconds if you don't want to hear it,
Hmm?
who is the elusive man, killed his brother during the First Contact War.
Mm-hmm.
Now, personally, I find that kind of petty, because, it was a war, people died, but I can't really say too much, because it's not like I've ever been in a similar position, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll keep my mouth shut on that subject for now.
But Saren had an excellent career in the Turian military, and all of his achievements eventually got him the position of one of the council's Spectres. But Saren was actually fighting very dirty. At one point, he had a mission that he was forced to work with.
A human named David Anderson, who is a important player in the Mass Effect game. And Anderson was up to become a Spectre himself, the first ever human Spectre, so that was a really big deal, but Saren sabotaged him.
Mm-hmm. And he ended up stealing the research of a human doctor who was trying to figure out about Sovereign, who's actually a Reaper.
And he's the first Reaper we've ever encountered, who are like the main villains of the Mass Effect series. So we probably won't talk about any specific Reapers in this category, but we probably talk about them as a group because they're kind of hive-minded.
But anyway, so
We'll get into that when that time comes. So Saren, he goes about being Saren. We don't really know too much about him in that regard. He eventually meets Sovereign, who is so big that he might as well be just a huge ship, and he gets indoctrinated.
yes.
Which is like a Reaper technique to getting organics to join them and help them basically indoctrinate or kill all the other organics.
So by the time the first game starts, Saren has been indoctrinated, and when you see him for the first time, it's on the human colony of Eden Prime, and he kills another Spectre named Nihilus, who was also a Turian, who was accompanying you on this mission.
And he's one of the Turians who doesn't hate humans. He finds them resourceful, and he's impressed with Shepard, who he's there to monitor to see if he or she, depending upon the gender you pick, is a good fit to be a Spectre, him or herself. So Saren kills him. You accuse Saren of doing the deed. There's a trial. He gets off. But then eventually, while you're still in the Citadel, you find proof.
Yes, because one of your future squad mates, who you rescue from Shadow Broker operatives, Tally,
she's recording proving that he was involved.
And he was working with a machine species called the Geth.
Yeah, and they're not looked upon well.
No.
So, but that's a story for another day. But you take the evidence to the council, they strip him of Spectre status, make you a Spectre, and send you after him. And you see him in a few cutscenes, mostly just him being angry and violent.
Yes.
And one of the next places you see him, like as Shepard, is on Vermeer.
Yes, where he persuades you to join his cause.
Or he tries to, and you. Well, the conversation can go many different ways, but in my opinion, the best way is to shout at him that he's been indoctrinated, he's acting crazy, he's going to get every organic killed despite his intentions, and you try to get him to join you. But I think that's the best choice because it has a very decent payoff later, regardless if you want to be a renegade or a paragon.
But regardless of what option you choose, it doesn't work, and
you shoot at each other, he retreats, and then you don't see him again until you're on the Citadel next time, and you're fighting him in the council chambers. And he's like, I couldn't get and if you do the whole, you're indoctrinated, it's tricking you, it's controlling you, you're already its puppet speech to him. He's like, I couldn't get what you were saying out of my head.
So you did get through to him.
But Sovereign, in response to that, basically made him a cyborg, filled him with robotic parts.
Yep. Well, first if you have convinced him that he's indoctrinated and he does tell you that he couldn't get what you said to him out of his head, he'll
shoot himself in the head.
But not before saying goodbye to you and saying thank you.
Yeah, so that happens, and then, as I said, he's kind of a cyborg now, so the robotic parts aren't dead, so they attack you, and then you gotta put that down. And after, the only real glimpse of him you get again is in, if you have the DLC character Kasumi Goto, or Goto, I can't remember how to pronounce it.
Goto.
Okay. She has a statue of Saren made for her loyalty mission quest. So you see that, and there's a moment where you just stare it down. So I think Shepard still has some issues with that.
Yeah. So that's Saren in the game. He only appears in the first game. He's, as Dragon just said, he's mentioned, and there's a statue, but Saren had a very short run.
But he had a big impact. So now on to the 4 categories.
So the first one, does he work as a character. Well,
I'm
yes.
gonna go with yes and no because, you know, like, he does work, but we don't know much about him, and we know a lot about everybody else.
So, but as a villain, he does work in some regards.
He's violent, he's tough, he can be a good foil for your Shepherd character depending upon how you play them,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a tough opponent.
He definitely is.
Like, it's annoying to fight him in that last stage when he's that machine crawler thingy. It's creepy.
Yeah.
And he is very challenging to fight when you're on Vermeer. Very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he's a good fight, and, you know, it's interesting to see him, like, degrade after you've shouted at him a bit.
Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna lie, because Dragon played the game first, and I did watch her play you
That's
through.
what got her into playing, because I was playing, and then she came over, and I'm like, okay, I can save this and play it later, and we can watch movies or whatever. I don't remember what, it was years ago. And she's like, no, I want to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So she sat there and watched me play.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got the game,
And when I finally played, she is right. Saren is a very tough opponent. And
like, again, I don't care if you prefer Renegade or if you prefer Paragon. I very much believe the Paragon responses to Saren on Vermeer are the better ones to use because it is very good payoff to get him to shoot himself.
mm-hmm. Because if he doesn't, then you're just gonna have to battle him, and then eventually you just have to play until you kill him.
Yeah. I just like the whole yelling at him, which amounts to "you're stupid, get over it."
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's good payoff given how smug he is. But that's it for this section. So the next one.
So the next one is, does he work in his settings? And
Yeah, he's a typical Turian.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a bit more violent than some of the others, but a very typical Turian. So he works.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, again, in this universe, it's kind of hard for a lot of the characters not to work. But as a villain, he works too. And I think he's actually very interesting when it comes to someone who didn't necessarily start as a villain and they gradually...
Well, he was never a good guy.
He was never good.
He was a racist, and he wasn't a nice person. But there's a line between being a jerk and being evil.
Mm-hmm.
And he crossed over that line. He had good intentions, because he's like, I'm doing this so that not all of us have to die, which,
Mm-hmm.
you know, is good intentions, I'll give him that,
But the way he went about it was completely stupid.
and insane and horrible. And plus, I don't even know if he realized this, but this surviving people that he's imagining for the future would have been slaves.
Yes.
Because we see in number 2 what happens to the beings the Reapers spare.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty, I think I prefer death.
I prefer death than becoming like the Protheans, turning into collectors.
Yeah. Not good.
So yes, he does work in his setting. So that brings us to our last category. Do we like him? As far as villains go,
He's not bad, but I didn't love him.
no, I didn't love him.
Like, it didn't upset me or annoy me or even bother me that he's never really brought up again.
I mean, the first time I played through when he killed himself in the end, because I did go with the Paragon option, it did shock me, because I didn't even remember that from watching her playthrough.
I'm not sure if you saw that part.
I don't think I did. I think I only saw you kill him when he was that cyborg mech thing.
She watched me play a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on, so it's like he's a decent villain. I didn't hate him in that capacity, but he wasn't like I said, I wasn't upset in any definition of the word that he wasn't really present in spirit or otherwise in any of the other games. It was just I didn't mind. It didn't bother me. I didn't think the games were lesser for it, so like he served his purpose and he served it well, but I didn't
It's
particularly enjoy him, I guess, is the best wording I could think of.
Same here. I mean, he was a good villain, but as far as video game villains go, he's definitely not one of my favorites. And honestly, unless I'm talking about Mass Effect or playing through the first game, it's easy to forget about him when you get into the later games of the series. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Saren.
Yeah, not really much else to say. As I said, he's not a very complex character. There's not really much to him.
No.
Alright, so we will be moving on now.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see you in our third Mass Effect video. So,
Bye.
bye.